Greetings, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. Today, I am finally not sick, so that's great. Everybody, round of applause, celebrate me for being well again. Just in time to go to LA. Thank God. Today's video, I wanted to do something that I've done before, but not really. I'm gonna mix it up, make it a bit more fun today. And that is going through r/nice guys. However, they've added a thing like Meme Sunday. So basically every Sunday in the subreddit, you are only allowed to upload memes, which are much more fun and amusing than their standard content, which is horrific and oftentimes very triggering. So I thought that it would be a fun idea to go through some of the nice guy memes. So that's what we're doing today. But before we do get into it, I would like to say a massive thank you to today's patron of the day, Sad Unicorn. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you enjoy this video. And if anyone else would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/savvycat or click the top link in the description. It starts at as little as £1 a month, and I appreciate anything and all of your support so much. So thank you. And if you want to hear more about it, then stick around until the end. This first one is a SpongeBob meme. It's the one where he's like reading a piece of paper and the paper says, "Be nice to a girl because you want to be nice and not because you hope she will sleep with you. Nice guys," like looking at it puzzlingly and then throwing it in a fire. Just using it to, warm your hands a little bit. This just feels like a really good place to start because it kind of sums up the whole nice guy experience. It's the women exist solely for me, and when they deny that, they lose all personhood in my eyes kind of vibes, The classic nice guy thing, which, just a newsflash for all the nice guys out there. If you were only nice for personal gain, you're not nice. It's like in The Good Place, right? If you were doing good things purely just so you can get in the good place, you aren't a good person because your motives aren't selfless. Being good for selfish reasons is not being good. Even if it has positive impact, you're not a good person. You're just doing good things, It's like doing a bad thing doesn't make you a bad person. Doing a good thing doesn't make you a good person. Kind of vibes. And nice guys especially are only nice for personal gain and then claim to be a nice guy, which you're a conditionally nice guy, not a nice guy. There's a difference. Next up is a woman yelling, saying, "You're supposed to pull my chair out, hold the door open for me, pay for me, and be nice to me no matter what, whilst treating me like an equal," which is obviously like a coming from the nice guy perspective kind of thing, because they love to say that. They're like, I bought you a drink. I opened the door for you. I am being chivalrous. So why don't you want to sleep with me? What do you mean? I treat you like a queen, so you owe me. I'm being so nice. These things aren't what make you nice. It's like I said before, doing a nice thing does not make you a nice person. Doing a considerate thing does not make you a considerate person. And if you're doing these things for an ulterior motive, you're not doing good things. If you're like, if I pull her chair out and open the door for her and buy her a drink, maybe she'll sleep with me. You're not doing good things and you're not a good person. You should do nice things because it's the nice thing to do. You should do good things because, you want to make someone's life a little bit easier, a little bit better. And also, no one's asking you to do these things. These aren't like a checklist of things. I don't think I've ever had a guy really pull out a chair for me or open the door for me, etc. They will open the door for me, but then I'll also open the door for it's just the thing you do if you're in front of them or whatever, It's not something I pay any mind to. It's not something most people pay any mind to. These aren't a list of attractive qualities in a person. These are just cute little bonus things that you can do. You should want to do nice things for someone, and then they'll want to do nice things in return for you. And sleeping with you isn't the only nice thing they can do, and that's not really a nice thing. That's just a thing that occurs sometimes in certain relationships. It's definitely not a relationship like definer and place you have to get to in order to make a relationship equal, you know? Like, you do these things for someone that you view as an equal, and they'll do things for you back in return. You shouldn't keep a tally of how many nice things you've done for someone, because a lot of the time you don't keep a tally of what they do back for you. You just use the nice things you've done to hold over their heads. And that flows really nicely into this next one. This is Morty from Rick and Morty holding up a stamp card that says, "Times I respected you." And it says, "How nice guys think sex works." And like, yeah, you can't just tally up how many times you've been nice to someone and expect something in return. That's just not how human relationships work. That's not how anything works. Don't expect shit in return. People don't really owe you anything. Like, if you respect someone, then yeah, they should respect you back. And if they don't, then maybe, like, you know, that's not someone that you want in your life. But you should still be respectful. You should just be a good person in general. You don't have to keep people in your life if they don't treat you well. But they don't owe you their body. For sure, they don't owe you sex. Not even a little bit. They don't owe you anything, really. Being nice and doing nice gestures is not the same as having a relationship of any sort, you know? Like, I'm respectful to everyone that I meet, you know? Like, the people who work in the shops that I go to, waitresses, waiters, etc. I don't be like, I was nice to you, so you have to do things for me. Like, no. That's not at all how it works. And even if they're your friend, the only thing they owe you is just being respectful in return. And if they're not, then maybe just don't be friends anymore. Insulting girls after they reject you won't change their mind. And then nice guys. And it's Tom from Tom and Jerry being very, very angry reading this. And like, yeah, I have so many questions about what they think will happen when they do this. Like the nice guys who like ask women out, and then when they're rejected are like, I didn't even like you anyway, I was doing you a favor, you freaking bitch, you are the worst, you're a nightmare, you're such a slut. Like, what do you think that's gonna change their minds? Like, what are you doing? Just accept rejection and move on with your life. You're not changing anyone's mind. You're not doing anything. All you're doing is making them, you know, expose you, and then you have less of a chance with anyone else. Just be a person and carry on, you know? All these people, they're like, I'm a nice guy, but you say one thing to me that I don't like and I will hate crime you. Like, bro, stop. People can see through that a decent amount, you know? There are a lot of warning signs that these guys don't think they're like giving off. There's a lot of very obvious red flags that they think you don't notice, but like, we notice. They like insult you and then are like, you don't like nice guys, you only like assholes. I'm like, well, clearly I don't like assholes, because right now you're being an asshole and I like you less than I did 5 minutes ago, and I didn't even like you 5 minutes ago. And that goes into this one really nicely. This is like the illusion of choice. There's two paths. One, me, a nice guy, and then those assholes who treat you badly. But the wall like ends, it actually leads to the same place, which is being abused. And yeah, we have to be so cautious of everyone, because like there are so many abuses out there, and there are so many men who think that women owe them, and there are so many men who lie about who they are and how they view women and everything. And like you have to go through a whole like interview process almost for so many guys. And so like, yeah, women are cautious, and you see so many like dudes being like, for a first date, they're like, why don't you come over for drinks? It's like, I am not going to your house for our first date. You know, like if you want to meet up with me, we're meeting up in public, because no way am I going to a strange man's house. Absolutely not. I did that once. I didn't do that once. I went out with this guy a couple times, and then I went to his place after only going out like twice, and he didn't have any flatmates or anything. He lived alone. And then I like got to like nighttime and we like went to bed, and I was there and I was like freaking the fuck out. I was like having a panic attack. Like, what am I fucking doing here? This dude could be anyone. He could be a fucking serial killer for all I know. And he wasn't. We went out a few more times after that, but I had this like moment of realizing how fucking stupid I was because I didn't tell anyone where I was either. So then I just like went on my phone and like messaged all of my friends. I'm like, this is the address I'm at, by the way. A bonus part of the story that adds context to my stupidity and my anxiety is that he lived like a bit out of London. It was a bitch to get to. It took ages and the trains weren't running to get me home and I didn't have enough money for an Uber home. And also we had had a few drinks, and in this moment where I'm like freaking out is that like we were in bed and he got up to go get a glass of water and I'm like, he's getting a knife and I'm gonna fucking die. So then I picked up my phone and I texted my friends because I was like, what am I doing? I'm fucking stupid. And then he came back and I was having a panic attack and he was like, okay, are you good? And then it was fine, but a panic moment that like a lot of men don't consider that you even like go through, you know? Always be cautious and tell people where you are all the time because men are scary. This is a gingerbread man making a gingerbread woman, but then the gingerbread woman leaves him for a chocolate chip cookie on a motorcycle. This is such a strange analogy. This is such a strange way to portray anything because like you made her specifically for yourself and like your own needs and benefit. And like, I don't quite understand the like, I made you thing because that is kind of incesty, firstly. If you make someone, typically they're your child. And like, yeah, if someone created me for their own selfish gain, I wouldn't really want to be there because I would feel very uncomfortable. Nobody fucking owns me. And I don't want to exist for the sole purpose of like pleasing this one dude. I'd want to leave. That's a terrible relationship dynamic. Yeah, I would fucking leave. She should fucking leave. You're a weirdo. You're weird. Why are you saying this as though like, oh, it's so heartbreaking. You'll make a woman and then she'll leave you. Like, what? What are you trying to say here? This is deep. And it's it's a Candle who is a girl, obviously. She's wearing a skirt and she's like lit, you know, she's got a flame. And then there's this dude who's a box of matches like sitting on a bench looking really sad because she's talking to a fire extinguisher on a motorbike. And I suppose what the metaphor is trying to be here is that it's like, I light you, you know, I bring out the best in you, I make you brighter, I am your flame, or you are my flame, or whatever. And you want to go off with some dude who's just gonna put you out and dim you. And it's like, that's not the metaphor that you're making. That's not the point that you actually make here, because matches and a candle together, if the matches are lighting the candle and burning the candle is like melting. They're slowly dying. They're like being burned and melted into nothing. And you can melt the wax and like remold it and shape it into whatever you like, which is a really good analogy for abuse. And a fire extinguisher puts out fires, right? So being with a fire extinguisher will put out the flame and then keep them strong for longer. Will like maintain them and they'll balance each other out, you know? So yeah, this is what should happen. This is the healthy thing to happen. Yeah, the candle made the right choice and you are not making the point that you think you are. But, you know, good try. Who would win? A genuinely nice guy who risks his life to rescue a girl he likes, and it is Finn from the Star Wars sequels, or man titties, and it is Kylo Ren. And this is hilarious, and this example fucking baffles me because Finn wins every time. I love Finn. He's great. He's lovely. And he is one of the best characters in those movies. So he wins every time. I strongly dislike Kylo Ren. I really didn't like him. I didn't care for his character arc either. I don't like when redemption is just death. I don't like it. I don't think that's a good redemption. I didn't like his character. No, not a fan at all. And it's a really funny example because like most men disagree with that opinion. John Boyega was given so much shit for being like a main character in these movies. And yeah, that came down to just racism and Star Wars fans being the worst and being racist. But like, he was not a loved character. He was like bullied so much. He is not a popular character at all. And especially from like incels and shit, a lot of men resonated with Kylo Ren's character, which is terrifying. I hate it. Kylo Ren is an upsettingly beloved character, and a lot of men sympathized with him and really liked his story. So I don't really know the point you're trying to make here. You're saying that like women will choose like a hot dude over a nice dude, but it's like, so will you, because I'm sure that you like Kylo Ren over Finn, and that is the incorrect opinion. Anyway, the bad examples aside, we'll just take out the fact that they're Star Wars characters and it doesn't make sense in this example based off of popular opinions. Why would I choose when So Chungbin has both? There's a correct answer here, and it is Chungbin. So this is two guys sitting on a bench. One is a dude who treats her like shit, and the other is me, who treats her like a queen. And there's a street light over them, and it is like waving, so it is only over the dude who treats her like shit. You are probably not as nice as you think you are. Anyone who makes and shares these memes, you are probably not as nice as you think you are. You don't deserve her love and attention for just doing like the bare minimum, as in being a respectful person. You know, like, if you are her friend, then you can give her advice and input and express your concern for her if, you know, she asks for it. And if that's the type of relationship that you have, you are absolutely valid in that. However, if you're only saying the person she's dating is an asshole because you're jealous and you're like not giving this dude a chance or anything, then like you're out of line there. You know, she views you as a friend, you should view her as a friend and not expect anything more than that. But all you can do is be there for her. You can't force someone to leave someone, you know, like I have experience in that. I was in an abusive relationship when I was a teenager and it was awful, but you know, no one can really get you out of that. You have to come to that realization and get out of that yourself. Your friends can offer you advice and say what they think and such, but like no one can force you out of that situation. That's a decision you have to make for yourself. And I lost my best friend in that, in which, you know, she had a crush on me as well. So this is a very similar situation. And one day she just like screamed at me and she yelled at me. She's like, you have to choose me or him. And I like was so taken aback. And you know, being given an ultimatum, you always choose the person who didn't give you an ultimatum. Even though she was like obviously correct in that situation and I definitely should have broken up with my boyfriend, that's not, you know, a place where I had gotten to where I was able to do that. And then I lost my best friend. That was a really difficult thing. I lost a support person. And then, you know, that sparks further like trust issues and like abandonment issues, which I have because I have BPD. And so like you can't just do that. You just have to be a friend. And if you can't stand to watch your friends be abused, that's totally valid, but you don't leave that with like an ultimatum. You just say you need some space. But then alternatively, a lot of the guys who like say this are just fucking delusional and they don't even know these girls. They just kind of like have this like weird idea of a person and this like fantasy about some random girl who's like a regular at the coffee shop they go into, or they're like a waitress at a coffee shop that they are a regular customer at, or it's like a co-worker, someone they barely know and have like built up the idea for, and then they'll see them with their boyfriend, or they'll like hear them talking about their boyfriend and they make assumptions about their boyfriend being an asshole just because they personally feel like they deserve attention because they're nice to them by opening doors and engaging in small talk. If you're one of those people, then for sure, especially, you need to sit the fuck down. You can't just be like in love with the idea of a person and then expect them to love you in return just because you've done a few nice gestures. Like, a lot of the time you can be over persistent and make them uncomfortable and they just have to smile and like be polite because you know, you're kind of fucking scary. These nice guys are kind of terrifying. They'll like corner you. They'll think that you owe them. And like you just don't want to, and you don't owe them. Here is a text conversation. You looked so pretty today. Aw, thank you. Tell your brother thanks for inviting me. I had fun. I will. Was that a new dress? I've never seen it before. Lol, you act like you've seen all my clothes, but yeah, it was. Kinda regret it, TBH. It was so cold. It was kind of short. Almost made me want to reach up your dress and check if you were wearing panties. Cry laugh emoji. And then 8 hours later, good morning. Dude, what? What? That last comment was so unnecessary. Like, for what? For why? Dude. See, this is what we're talking about, is you'll say shit like this and be like, I was just being nice. Why wasn't she flattered? Because you fucking sexually harassed her, bro. That's why. That's such an uncomfortable, awful thing to say to someone. Oh my God, that's so violating. Just say, you looked really pretty. I really liked the dress. It suited you really well. I'm sorry you were cold. It was a cute dress though. Like, but just don't. Unless you are in like a committed relationship in which, you know, that is the way that you speak to each other, then that's the only time in which that is okay. But if you're just some like guy, no. I'll spray you with fucking water. You need someone who like sprays you with water. I just want, you know? Like, sit down. Stop it. Stay away from women. Don't ever talk to women. Live a life of solitude. Because fucking my God, you need to understand boundaries better. Because that is never an okay thing to say to someone. What is wrong with you? Ugh, that's so gross. It makes me like uncomfortable to read. I'm so sorry to the poor woman who received this text from someone they seemingly, you know, at least relatively enjoyed the company of. I want to finish it up with this comic that I think just perfectly sums up everything that we've gone over. This is like the inner monologue of a nice guy about a girl in his life, a friend. I have a crush on you. I could ask you out and move on with my life if you said no. Or we could be friends. See, I don't want to consider that you might not be attracted to me. I'm scared of rejection, so I've decided relationships should grow smoothly out of friendships. When you have problems, I'll be there for you, night after night. Selflessly. I'll tear down the jerks you date and wait for you to realize how good I am for you, that only I will ever understand you. You won't want to hurt my feelings, and I won't ever force the issue. I tell myself it's because I value our friendship. Bit by bit, I'll make you depend on me. You think about how long it would take to build this kind of connection again, and in a moment of weakness and loneliness, you'll give in. It'll feel comfortable and natural. You'll quietly revise your decision of love and try to be happy, and sometimes you will be. Only the wistfulness in your gaze and the tiny pause before you say, I love you, will hint that this wasn't the ending you'd hoped for. Sound good? And then it goes to reality where she says, I'm going to date this Jack. And he says, but he doesn't respect you. And yeah, this sums it up quite nicely, you know, like the manipulation over the course of a long time and like textbook abuse that they see as the only viable way to build a relationship is exactly why you're not a nice guy, and it's why you aren't in successful relationships, or like your friends don't want to date you because you are manipulative and you're an abuser and you are not nice. You are just being nice in order to gain something for yourself. And people can see through that a lot of the time, you know? If people don't view you in a romantic way or in the way that they want to pursue a relationship, there's nothing you can do about that. And like, relationships can blossom out of friendships, and it does happen naturally, but not when you're trying to force it. It's just like when two people, you know, get along and genuinely care about each other and don't do things for each other for personal gain, but just because they genuinely care about each other, then sometimes relationships will happen. And they're lovely relationships. They can be really long-term relationships, and they can be some of the most successful and some of the most like beautiful and happy relationships. But like, that doesn't happen when you go into the relationship trying to manipulate them. The takeaway here, please be mindful of the people that you have in your life. Please look for red flags. Please have conversations with people and, talk about important things with your friends. Talk about trauma, talk about political views and all that sort of stuff, because I think that is really, really important. Having like morals in line with each other it's so important to any relationship. So you need to have that. And yeah, people will lie about that, but there's often, some telltale signs that you have to look out for. Treat people with kindness because you like to make people happy, not because it earns you anything in return. Just be a good person to be a good person, That's all, really. Remember that you deserve, real love and like joy and happiness and care. And, it's better to not have that than it is to be with someone who is manipulating and abusing you. It is better to be alone than be abused. I promise you. I absolutely promise you that it is much better to be alone than it is to be in an abusive relationship. So please keep that in mind, always. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I upload a couple times a week and would love to see you here again. A massive thank you to my Sprout and Above patrons whose names are up on the screen right now. And a huge, huge thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons. Toulouse, Bobby, Josh, Mandy, Robbie, Ikazel, Kai, Jessica, Eldo, Ida, Queer Corey, Mick McKenna, Anna, Raven, Danielle, Elias, Evie, Rin, Nyx of the Eternal Night, and JD Creeper. I love and appreciate you all so, so much. Thank you so much for joining. If you would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/savvycat or click the top link in the description. I appreciate you absolutely endlessly. For as little as £1 a month, you get my videos a day early, as well as podcasts a week early. And then for £3 and up, you get things such as outtakes, bonus mini podcasts, live streams, and more. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.